everybody, and welcome back to the Consummate Athlete Podcast, where we talk to all different types of experts, athletes, and people who are living a lifestyle where they explore all different types of movement and adventure. I'm Molly Herford. I have been writing about all things outdoors, fitness, and crazy adventure related for the last decade, and, attempting to do a fair amount of it.
And I'm Peter Glassford. I'm a registered kinesiologist and an endurance coach. And I just got back racing my mountain bike this past weekend at the Paris Dancaster, which was great. I had missed racing and was pretty amped up to get back out there, and it was a good time.
I was pretty jealous, I'm not going to lie. You guys had a really nice day for it. It's one of my favorite races to do in Canada, so it's always a bummer missing that, but yoga teacher training's going pretty well, so I can't complain too much. I finally learned how to do a crow with a one leg out in the air behind you, which sounds kind of weird if you don't know what crow looks like, so look it up, I guess, if you're curious. But yeah, it's been going really well, and not just
It's
in the...
sort of like a headstand.
Yeah.
You just don't put your head on the ground. It's probably the easiest way to visualize it, I guess.
Isn't that a handstand?
But think, imagine you were in a headstand and then somehow you lifted your head off. That's not really how you get into it, but that's essentially the position.
I guess. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, yoga teacher training's been going well. Our weather has been getting nicer. We actually got out on a group run at night, one night this week, in the rain, oddly enough. That was a pretty good consummate athlete adventure. I think we're finally starting to really embrace all of the, options and people that Collingwood has to offer, and getting out and making new friends and trying out new things.
Yeah, it's been good doing that. And then I've been back in the gym, so get exposed to lots of different movement and stuff. We do a lot of, I think I've mentioned before, volleyball with the young sort of athletes and stuff. A lot of time we'll do that as a warm-up, so I've never been great at volleyball, and I've sort of noticed my skills improving a little bit. So that's been quite enjoyable.
Nice. And then just a couple of notes. If you happen to be in New York City and want to come out and hear me talk all things training, nutrition, cycling, comfort, basically if you have a question about bike stuff, I can probably answer it. I'll be speaking at the Rafa Cycle Club in downtown New York this Thursday at 7 p.m. And then if you are a female in the Greater Toronto area, I will be speaking in Barrie, Ontario at the Trek store on Monday at 7 p.m. Just a nice ladies talk about kind of all things ride comfort. So that should be a super fun one as well. So yeah, lots of talks coming up. I'm excited.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, and I'm just mostly on trail with folks and working in the gym, and mostly just small groups and stuff, but we have a couple bigger clinics, although a bunch of them, we're in Saskatchewan and we have one in Collingwood, but I think they're doing okay. We have one actually, I guess the Collingwood one still has some openings, but mostly small group stuff on the bikes right now. So it's all good. Did the Ellen Noble Quest fill up?
Not quite. I think we still have 2 slots left, but they're probably going to go.
If you are, or you care for, or I don't know, you take young girls to bike races. I always go down a bad path with this. If you know a young lady who likes to race cyclocross bikes or is interested in racing them, this is sort of a 14 to 18 is our...
Yep. 14 to 18. You can find out more just at ellennoble.com. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, probably good.
Anyway, today's guest is Mia Manganello. She is an Olympic bronze medalist in speed skating, actually, but she also was a professional bike racer for quite a few years.
But she started with roller skating.
Inline skating.
Big
so difference.
This is and that was big. That was 90s, 80s, 90s maybe. Technology came out, and then they added lots of wheels, and the skates got long, and the speeds got high.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how a documentary would start.
You need a better documentary voice.
And then the speeds got high.
That actually sounded like the intro to that HBO mockumentary Tour de Pharmacy about bike racing.
Well, I think they're trying to show that here in town, actually.
Really? Sweet. Good to know. Anyway, Mia was awesome. I had actually interviewed her for Flow Bikes. You can find the interview on just on the outdooredit.com. I have a link to it, and I loved her so much, talking about kind of where she'd been, how she got into speed skating, how she got into bike racing, and all, how her training has changed over the years, how it evolved to work with bike racing, how the two sports influenced each other. Her parents are both chefs, so we also get pretty heavy into how she eats and, some of her favorite things to eat. We actually, in the written interview, you can find one of her favorite recipes. And we kind of get into that in our talk too. But she was just so rad when I first interviewed her that I knew we wanted to have her on the show. So yeah, this was a great chance for me to get to kind of re-dive into some stuff that I covered in the interview, but then also get into the stuff that I thought was super interesting that I hadn't gotten a chance to delve into too deep.
Awesome. Well, why don't we check it out?
Now that it's been like a month since I last talked to you, has it started to sink in that you have an Olympic medal?
Gosh, I hate saying it, but no, not really. I went a couple weeks there without looking at it. It was just in my purse and hanging here at the house, and I went to meet a couple friends at a local coffee shop, and it was the first time I had seen it in a little while, and it kind of caught me by surprise again. And it's just like, holy crap, this thing is real.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited for the day that I have a place for it, so I can set it out and see it every day.
Yeah.
And just kind of remind myself, I mean, selfishly, it's good to see what you've accomplished on bad days. You're feeling crummy about yourself or just feeling down, and you can just kind of glance over and be like, oh yeah, I was a badass.
Oh, right. That's my Olympic medal,
Yeah, I've done something. That's cool.
That's so rad. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just dive in here. I know obviously we've talked before, but for, the listeners who, maybe know your name because I've been, writing about it a bunch, but give me your brief bio.
Okay. So, Mia MANGANELLO. I'm 28 years old. I started skating pretty much at 2 in diapers on roller skates. Yeah. Both my parents were in the skating world, both competitively, more so my dad. Once I was about 5 or 6, my dad had quit, and they focused on business and making money. And I just continued rolling at the rink. I went to the skating rink probably 5 days a week, and all under the age of 10, which is just mind-blowing to look back at.
Yeah, for like a 10-year-old to have that kind of drive. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's nuts. When I was 13 years old, I decided I wanted to try ice skating. It was after my dad had brought me out to Salt Lake City. We were in Florida. He had brought me out to Salt Lake City for just kind of a long weekend, learn to speed skate camp. And it was myself and probably about 20 other kids, some adults as well. And I just had an absolute blast. I'm not sure if it was, just the internal love for this sport, or if it was a new challenge, new exciting, something to better myself at. But I left completely motivated to be an ice speed skater, go to the Olympics, and win a medal. And so my dad and I had driven out to Salt Lake for the camp. So on our way back, we called my mom. Dad was like, yeah, joke around, play a joke on her, and tell her you want to move out here. And so I did, jokingly, of course, kind of serious, but jokingly.
Yeah.
We get back after the 2-day drive, and Mom has the whole living room packed, part of the kitchen.
Oh my God.
And it happened. Yeah. About a month later, we packed up our RV and drove out to Salt Lake City. I started skating the moment we got here. I joined a local club, just a Learn to Speed Skate club here at the Utah Olympic Oval. It's a little step program which keeps you motivated and progressing quickly. I competed up until I was 20 years old. I made numerous junior world teams, World Cup teams, World Championship teams, pretty much accomplishing every goal but making the Olympics. I then, at the age of 20, competed at the 2010 Olympic trials here in Salt Lake. And leading into it, previous year, I had all the motivation in the world and, huge hopes in making that team. The year of 2010, my coach was let go. And so I found myself a bit lost, looking for new coaching, looking for a new program, while also maintaining focus. And for me at that age, looking back, I just wasn't mentally prepared to handle a situation like that. So needless to say, the Olympic trials did not go as planned.
Oof.
I didn't perform up to my potential. I knew it. But at that moment, I was a stubborn, almost 20-year-old. And just, I had devoted my life to this. And for it to end that way, I was just kind of over it. I was mentally burnt out. Physically, I wasn't capable of doing much more in that time of my life. So I decided to step away. I stepped away for 6 years. Within that 6 years, I took up professional cycling. I was on a team for 5 years and grew to become one of the best sprinters in the country, winning green jerseys, which are the sprinters' jerseys in stage racing. I absolutely fell in love with the team atmosphere of cycling. Growing up as a speed skater, it's an individual sport. And so, it took me probably a good year and a half to get the mindset of working as a team, which is pretty aggravating for my director, I guarantee you.
It's a weird thing to get used to.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and it's just like, why does she get to win? I want to win.
Yeah.
Why? And I'm just, I was ridiculous. But once you get over that, it's the most rewarding feeling I've ever felt was completely killing myself and going so far into the hole for your teammate to succeed. There is, a fine line. You want to make sure that, that person is being, credited for that effort. And, the people surrounding me did just that. And so for me, it was an extreme reward, and something I definitely miss to this day right now, coming back. So after the 6 years away, I decided, I never stopped thinking about speed skating and my lack of achieving this Olympic dream that I've had since I was 13 years old. And so 2 years ago, I decided to come out and just kind of jump in the ice, dabble in a little bit, just kind of see if it's still there. And I stepped on the ice, and I'm telling you, it was magic. It was the most surreal feeling I stepped on the ice. The technique was a little rusty, but pretty much still solid. But coming off the bike, I was in the best physical shape I had ever been in my life. I had leaned out and my endurance was through the roof. And so I could just go out there and I could just skate laps and laps and laps. And for me, I'm a purist when it comes to speed skating, and that is speed skating. It's just the capability of just going out and enjoying each corner, each straightaway, and just doing it over and over again and just finding your rhythm and just losing yourself in it. And that's really what just kind of rushed back to me. And I'm like, okay, this is it. It's now or never. It's time to finish old business and take care of old business. And so I competed in my last season of cycling in 2016, jumped right onto the ice that fall, had the most amazing season ever, and then decided this past summer to not go back to road cycling. I still trained with it full blown, but I just didn't want to take the risk of crashing or injuring myself.
Yeah.
So I focused more on the ice and speed skating specific training. And looking back, I would have changed a couple of things training wise. There's nothing like the fitness you get from actually racing your bike. You can train all you want, but just the fitness you get from a stage race or even a freaking crit
is, for sure.
It's unmeasurable, and you can't compare anything to it. And so that was, I don't want to say a regret, but something I would have changed about this past season. I probably would have raced and just been a little bit more cautious on the distance or something. But needless to say, it all worked out. Made the Olympic team, and now I'm an Olympic medalist, which is totally mind-blowing.
Okay, first of all, what was the trials like this time compared to when you did them 8 years ago? Were you super nervous because it hadn't gone super well the first time?
Yeah. Well, leading into the Olympics trials, the previous year I was the best in the country by a pretty good margin. So going into this year, I was pretty confident in myself. I knew, I could only get better. If anything, I just maintain and things should go fairly well. And but my training kind of wasn't to the high quality that I wanted. And so going into Olympic trials, I was a bit nervous. I knew that I wasn't skating my best. I had been really, really sick 2 weeks prior, so I wasn't able to get a good training block leading into the Olympic trials. But I knew I would make it. I just didn't know in what event I would make it in. But so the 3,000 meter was the first event, my favorite race, and I was just, my body didn't have anything to produce, pretty much. I was going out there empty, and so I went out, obviously skated the best I could, and it wasn't good enough that day. So first day down, not an Olympian yet. Second day was the 1,000 meter. This race is, so the 3,000 is my heart, but the 1,000 is just absolute fun. This race is the best race ever. It is so much fun because once you start hurting, you're done. I mean, it's the perfect distance. It's a little over a minute of a race. yeah, and it's just full blown. It's 2.5 laps, and that's it. You just go from the gun. You go hard, and it's a blast. So this race I wanted to do just for fun. I knew I had a chance to make the team, but it wasn't a goal of mine. So since the 3,000 didn't go as planned, I'm like, okay, screw this. I'm going to have some fun. And so I raced 1,000, and I actually got third, which was a qualifying spot for the Olympic team. But there was a time standard that the U.S. Speed Skating Organization had put forth that I did not achieve.
Oh, okay.
This being very difficult to achieve on slow sea level ice. So it was it was a frustrating situation. But once again, day 2 didn't make the Olympic team. Now it is day 3, which is the 5,000 meter. And this race, I'm sure I could be pretty darn good at, but I just can't stand it. It's 12.5 laps, and I just lose my mind in this race. I get so bored. I don't know. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. I'm talking about how pure, skating laps is, but when you go out and you put this time frame on it, it just throws all that pretty out the window. So I decided to not race the 5,000, rest 2 days, because the next day I wouldn't race either, and put all my eggs in the 1,500 meter basket. So I rested that day, then the following, and then we're looking at 2 days left of Olympic trials, and I'm not an Olympian yet. I go to the line over the 1,500. I'm the last pair. I know exactly the time I need to beat, which is pretty much the most perfect situation you could ever imagine. And when I crossed that line, and all I saw was it was sub 2 minutes, which is what I needed to do to make the team. I didn't see anything else. I threw my hands up, started screaming. But it was the most surreal, but it was the most surreal moment. But it was so interesting because it's a moment that I knew I was capable of and had envisioned and, experienced over and over again in my mind. But when it actually happens, and you see your coach and you see your family, and it makes me emotional just thinking about it again. You can't simulate that in your mind. You can't prepare yourself for that feeling, especially for a first-time Olympian, And so, it was not an easy Olympic trials by any means. It was the most stressful thing. I tried to keep myself calm. My family were amazing. My fiance was amazing. Trying to just, it'll be okay. We'll get through this, and so it was a complete head case. It was awful, but I knew I would make it somehow. I just didn't know in what way.
Yeah.
And then the next day was the mass start, which I knew I had no issues making. And that was just a ball of fun. That was just awesome.
Wait, mass start? So what does that mean?
Yes. So the mass start is pretty much a crit on ice.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have 100 of us out there, but it's so at the Olympics they took it to 16 girls and 16 guys in the final. So within this race, it's 16 laps. You have 3 preems. Those are for points. And then you have the final sprint, which only top 3 get points. So there's a bit of strategy. At the Olympics, they had a semifinal, and then a final. Excuse me. So when we went to the semifinal, it's top 8 moved on to the final, but top 8 in points, not top 8 finishing at the line after the 16 laps. So the preems are extremely important because if you get, I think we calculated it out, if you were able to get 3 or 4 points, you're pretty much guaranteed a spot in the final. And so you're out there and you're with, up to 20 girls fighting for 8 spots.
Whew.
And and we're going for every preem, which is pretty much, I think it's maybe every 3 laps, every 4 laps. And so it's just full blown. There's no way to attack. It's just go, go, go. And it was so stressful in my semi because I had a game plan and it just kept getting screwed up. So I'm like, well, crap. That one didn't work. Got to go for the next one. That one didn't work. Got to go for. So luckily, I was able to get 1 point, and thank God that was enough to get me to the final. I believe I was the last person. I was the 8th person in that semi. So luckily, it worked out. That way, we could, as Team USA, move forward with our strategy going to the final. And so in the final, it was the 16 girls, and with the points that you can accumulate during the race, even if you were to win all 3, that still won't put you on the podium, because the points they have for the finish line are out of reach, and it only goes to top 3.
Okay.
So in the final, it's kind of doesn't make sense to go for the semis, for the preems. It's just kind of a waste of time and a waste of energy. So the race really comes down to about the last 3 laps. So for our game plan, we had myself and Heather Richardson, who is one of the fastest women in the world. We had a game plan of I would lead her out, and she would finish it off with an awesome sprint.
It's so funny how much this sounds like you're just talking about a crit in bike racing.
Yeah. Well, and it's really interesting how a lot of people don't understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, it's second nature.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, of course.
Like you're attacking. Yeah. But I'm trying to talk to these people, and they're just,
Okay.
I was like, are you getting it? Are you getting it? I don't know if you're getting it. And I'm like, we're going to have to be able to adjust last minute, and we need to communicate. And we're just like, okay, we're just going to have you lead her out at this lap, and she's going to do her best to get on the podium. I'm like, okay, done.
Got it. Can do.
Yeah. And so it was an amazing final. Set it up perfectly. We just kind of chilled out in the back, waited for the right moment. It was right after the last preem is when I kind of countered with our build into the lead out, and so I led the last 3.5 laps and pulled off with 1 to go. And unfortunately, she didn't have the legs that day to finish it off. But I was pretty proud with my effort and the possibilities that could be.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's a thrilling, extremely spectator friendly event that they brought to the game for long track speed skating, and I'm excited to see its growth. This was the first time it was in the Olympics, and they've been racing it at World Cups for the past few years, but definitely has a lot to develop with the adjustment of points systems. I mean, if you're on a break and you win all the preems, you should at least get third.
Yeah.
On the you know what I mean? Like, that effort should be rewarded.
Yeah, if they're gonna make the preems count, well, like, why not have them?
Exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, everybody's just waiting for the last lap, and they just wait and sprint.
Yeah.
And what kind of race is that? You know. So there's a little bit of tweaks that can be made, and I'm sure they will. It'll develop, and it's an amazing event, and it was fun to kind of bring my love of cycling into the love of speed skating as well.
That's awesome. So in this, I have to ask, does it ever get like crits where like people are like bumping elbows and like...
Dude, it is hardcore. It is so dirty. These girls, I mean, we always talk with the guys on our team that do it as well, and they're just completely shocked by how dirty these girls are. And we think it's because our pace isn't as high, so we're not strung out, so there's more opportunities to bump and grab and pull and yank. And so in that, I mean, it is unreal. In the final at the Olympics, our first lap, it's pretty much a roll start. So we our first lap, the gun goes off, and it's neutral. So the idea is just everybody kind of form a line, and then next time we come around, they'll shoot the gun again, and the race starts.
Okay.
So within that neutral lap, nothing's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, placement doesn't really matter. You got 16 more laps. You know, oh my gosh. That gun goes off, and there are arms and hands everywhere. I mean, people are grabbing hips, yanking them back, bumping. Oh, it is nuts. And so I'm in the back, and, like, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but I just, like, throw my hands up. I'm like, oh, my gosh, go ahead. Go ahead. I don't care.
Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me.
Seriously. I mean, we got blades on our feet right here, you know? Like, calm down.
Oh, that's so funny.
So, yeah, there's definitely... It's way more than cycling, because cycling, you can't use your hands most of the time. You can't use your hands. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It is. It takes a certain kind of person that can get out there and be okay with that, be comfortable with the touchy.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of girls that have tried, and, you know, once they're touched, you know, they lose 3 spots.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a thing. And so, yeah, it's definitely going to bring out a certain type of athlete.
Yeah,
for sure. But hopefully that grows the sport, you know, gives a new opportunity to somebody else that doesn't like time trial speed skating, which is all long track is, and kind of just plays in a different person. So
yeah,
it's exciting.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so that race. Now let's talk about the race where you actually walked away with a medal. So give me the story.
Yeah. So the team pursuit is probably my favorite race. Obviously, opposed, you know, not taken away from my individual races, but for me, coming off cycling, I'm a team player, and so this team pursuit is pretty much the same as in the velodrome. So we have 3 girls or 3 guys, and we skate 6 laps. Men skate 8, and your time is based off your 3rd skater to cross the line.
Okay.
So the whole idea is you have to keep everybody together and work as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
So in our situation, we had 2 sprinters and myself, which is more middle to long distance. So for us, you know, we have to make sure that we pick the right strategy to work best with our abilities. And so for myself, I would have the most endurance out of the three of us, where the other two are the fastest girls in the world, Brittany Bowe and Heather Richardson. And so our plan was to have them go out first and just go hard. They were our speed builders and maintain. So for myself, it was a little difficult. Luckily, it doesn't show it in the replay, but I did get dropped for the first 50 meters. Just because they're so freaking fast. But, yeah, so we took off first 2-3 laps. The other girls led and pretty much got us, the medal. Like, without them and building that speed, it wouldn't have been possible. We built up, I think, almost a 3 minute or almost a second, lead on the Canadians in our medal round. And then luckily when I went to the lead, I was able to kind of keep it together and get us to the line. But it really is a full, you can have many different types of skaters, and pick a strategy any way, any team can win pretty much. It's just really working to your best abilities and trusting each other as a team. And that was really something that drew me to this sport. And I always feel like if you're in a team atmosphere, you can always push yourself a little harder, opposed to being out there by yourself.
Yeah.
I knew I had my teammates behind me, helping, and we used pushing as well within the race. And so I had them pushing, and it just kind of gives you an extra couple levels of intensity. And it's an amazing race. We didn't expect the result, but are damn pleased with it for sure.
Yeah, so when you crossed the finish line, you still had to wait to see where you'd end up, right?
Well, so when we made it to the bronze medal round, it's pretty much knockouts.
Oh, okay.
So we knew all we needed to do was beat the Canadians, which was our pair. So it's a rat race, basically. And so for us, when we crossed the line, all we needed to see was a 1 by our name, opposed to a 2.
Oh, okay.
And so that's all I looked for. I think I was the first one to kind of look up, and I didn't see our time. I didn't see anything but that 1 by our name, by USA. And we knew we did it. That's all we needed to know. It didn't matter how fast we went. We just had to beat the pair and make it happen.
Oh, did you totally freak out when you saw that?
Oh, yeah. We were just we couldn't feel anything in our body. The quarter before, myself and Brittany Bowe, who was behind me, almost crashed. We almost fell, which just would have been the most devastating thing in the world. And that all just kind of, you just don't feel anything anymore. You cross the line and it all disappears.
Yeah.
And you just scream, and, it's crazy how your natural reaction is just to throw your hands up. But we did. We all locked hands and threw our hands up, and we wrapped around the ice and all gave our coaches high fives on the other side, and it was nuts. I couldn't believe it. And being the first Team USA American team to win a medal in that event was a huge honor.
That's
and a reward on top of it. Yeah. We were the first women to get a medal since, I think it had been 16 years.
Oh, wow.
Since an American woman had won a medal on long track speed skating. And in 2010, an American medal we had medaled in the sport. And so there was many emotions going on and many things that just kept adding on. You know, we kept finding these little facts out along the way, and it was, just kept it surreal and magical.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
So backing way, way up, what does like a typical training week look like for you when you're like really heavy into speed skating season? Do you do any like flexibility stuff? Do you do any strength training? Is it all on the ice? Yeah. What's it look like?
Yeah. So pretty much the rundown, season starts about April, May. This is our off season, quotation. This is where we're building our base. So from April, May till about August, we're working on strength and conditioning. So we ride a lot. Cycling is probably the top cross-training tool in speed skating, I'd say. Definitely for a middle to long distance athlete.
Yeah, and it's crazy how many pro cyclists are also speed skaters and vice versa.
Right? Yeah, because we do it so much that we actually become pretty damn good at it. You know? And then it's completely different and and just a new challenge and fun so we're on the bike. We also do a lot of weightlifting. And skating specific training as well. We call dry land. So for the speed skating is a very, weight bearing sport, but you also need, power and strength on top of endurance. Mm-hmm. So for me specifically coming back, I was coming off of 6 years of cycling. So I was very, endurance was amazing, but I had no power behind me,
right?
Even being a sprinter. And so that was something that I needed to amp up a bit this year, because that's how you build speed on the ice. And then come July, August, the long track oval, the ice is actually being made. So the ice isn't in year round, which is kind of a reason we don't skate year round either, which is healthy. Yeah. That way we can build on other aspects as well. And so we get back on the ice July, August. Then for the next couple months, we are kind of transitioning more to focusing on skating. We do a little bit less of cycling, a little bit less of weight, and try and get our hard workouts on the ice just to get your body used to that position and in skating at that effort. And then the season starts in October, and from there it's just kind of full throttle till about February. So it's really important for us those first months in the summer, because that's what you're building to sustain you till February.
Yeah.
So it's really important. There's a couple moments in there that we have a couple weeks off that we aren't racing, that you kind of try and do a little rebuild as well, maybe get back on the bike, throw in a couple weightlifting sessions, but nothing really that can get you what you got in the summer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very, I feel like it's a short season because there's not that much racing, but it's very important to train for it. And those first couple months is where it's built.
I feel like that must be really challenging. I mean, I know cyclists run into this too, where like, you need to be training, but the race season seems so far away. like when it's April, you're like, oh, I have forever. It's not going to be that big of a deal if I, skip this week or do this or do this.
Day. Yeah.
But like,
yeah,
it's a
absolutely.
huge thing.
It's a huge thing. And this year for me, it came really quickly. April, I started training in April, May, June. By June, I was like, oh, gosh, just over it. I was over the bike. I was over weight. I just wanted to skate.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I'm here. This is what I want to do. But yeah, then after June, it was a moment.
Yeah.
And then the Olympics were here. And I'm like, holy crap, where did it all go? Did I train enough? Did I do this enough? And so I definitely try to maintain the mentality of just one day at a time, accomplish today. Don't look too far into the future. Live in the moment. That way, things don't get too big, too out of hand,
Yeah, absolutely. So within the speed skating oval, I noticed this even in my attempts to learn how to ice skate this year because I'd never really done it before. You're kind of going in the one direction, so you're sort of tilted into the left all the time. Do you find you have to reverse that with some weight stuff or flexibility stuff, or how do you handle that?
Yeah. Well, our dry land workouts, where we simulate skating on land, we do a lot in the opposite direction, just for that purpose.
Yeah.
We are very left leg dominant, just because that's our stability leg for half of our lap.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to make sure that, like you said, balance it out, basically. So we do a lot of exercises in the opposite direction. We have trainers and physios that go over with us kind of our balance and our strength and stretching, just to maintain and make sure that we are uniform. We are consistent. We aren't drifting one way or the other, because that can also develop into injuries.
Yeah.
And so they do a really great job in trying to make sure that we are balanced. And but in the end, we are only turning left, so it's inevitable. But but you try and close that gap for sure.
Yeah. And what do you think some mistakes that new speed skaters make? What would some of the big ones be?
Not being patient enough to start from the bottom. So for me, I came over when I was 13. Like I said, I started in a Learn to Speed Skate class. I started from the basics of the basics. And from that, you can continue to grow and build in the correct direction. Where some athletes come to the sport from either a different sport, a little older, so they feel, obviously they're stronger and they're strong enough to skate. So they kind of start out and then have to move backwards. So they start out a little too aggressively and with incorrect technique. And speed skating is all about technique.
Yeah.
You can have, you could be the strongest person in the world, but if you can't transition that to the ice in the correct technical way, you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so technique is extremely important for us. And I think it's very important for anybody that's wanting to learn skating to start from the basics.
Yeah,
and
for
it's
sure.
going to suck because it's going to take time and you have to be patient. But in the long run, it will all be worth it.
I like that. Are there any great cues that you can think of that you kind of remind yourself of when you're skating that someone that's kind of new to it could sort of be thinking of when they're on the ice?
Yeah. Well, for me, for skating, it's easy to get tense. You're on these razor blade, thin blades.
Yeah.
And you're going around these corners, and so it's easy to kind of tense up. For me, I breathe. Every time I race, I had Craig, my fiance, yell at me to breathe. Seriously, because you get wrapped up in the race, and you've got all your race cues that you're thinking of that you forget. Breathing happens naturally, but not the correct breathing.
Right.
So with skating, it's a balance between, yes, you have to be tense to hold the position, but you need to be able to do it in a relaxed way. And so breathing is a huge factor, not only to skate well and perform to your best, but it also helps with your muscles and your physiology too. So it could be a calming factor as well, especially in a longer race.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of it is just kind of technical cues. You don't want to be too far on your heels. You want to make sure that you're centered on your blades, pushing with your butt, just little things like that. But for an everyday use, breathing is a huge one.
I like that. It's funny you said the pushing and using your butt, because I think that's a problem a lot of cyclists have too, is that they don't use their glutes, which are the biggest muscle that we can. And we all forget it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, cycling is an interesting sport in the sense of, you have a coach. Most of us have coaches, that give you training workouts, but there's not really a lot of focus on technical.
No, definitely not for the road.
Cycling.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And so it's, you get your fitting and, your foot placement on your cleat, make sure that this is all right and your legs are moving straight. But there's not really any technical coaching, which I find interesting. But I know it's kind of difficult, too, because most coaches aren't seeing you every day either, doing your workouts. They're just, mine was always remote. And so, I don't know. I think that was one benefit that I brought to my cycling career, though, was a little bit of a more understanding of the body and kind of knowing what works for me. Like, I've used my glutes my entire life.
Yeah.
Why not use it on a bike? You're dying and your quads are blowing up. It's like, oh, wait, I've got this huge muscle back here.
Right.
That too.
Exactly. Awesome. All right. So what's next for you? I mean, Olympic medal, you got 4 years till the next. Are you going to get back on the road?
I know. 4 years is so long. Right now, I'm letting the ball roll. I definitely miss cycling and being out on the road in a peloton, surrounded by teammates. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to get back out there. What time frame? I don't know, maybe next summer. Kind of missed this one, being, dealing with all these award shows and banquets.
So tough.
But, I mean, even right now, this past couple of weeks, I've been on the bike, and I just like how I feel when I ride, mentally and physically. So definitely get back on the bike. Next 4 years, 2020 is definitely in the back of my mind, but I'm just going to let it sit there for a little bit.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of life-changing events happening now, and so I'm just gonna live day to day and not stress too much about it. The past up to this point in my life has been all about sports. So at this moment, I'm just kind of wanting to be a bride almost, you know, and kind of just live the quotes normal life, and enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, not have a training program, scheduling my days, and months and weeks, you know, just kind of letting life live.
I like that. And I mean, I think everyone needs that every once in a while. Like, your whole life has kind of been coming up to this, like, Olympic moment since, when you were, like, 13 and decided you wanted to do the Olympics. So
exactly. And for me, it really helps me. Taking moments like this to just not think about anything and see what pops into my mind. See what my heart desires.
Yeah,
absolutely. You know, whether that is sport or I love culinary, whether it's going to culinary school.
Yeah.
You know, I like to take a moment and let what I really want to do come through. That way, you know, it's not a forced situation. Oh, I want to do this. Let's do this. You know, then it's more of a passion. It's more of something you choose to do and you want to do, and maybe you're meant to do.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I think that's very healthy.
Yeah, thanks. I think so too.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, where can everybody follow along to see what is gonna be next for you? Where are you online?
Yeah, so I have Facebook. Obviously, I have just started an athlete page, post Olympics, and so you can follow along there with kind of events that I'll be attending. Come see the medal if you can, and then I've got my personal Instagram that I kind of just share things that I love, and that's MNMango89, I believe. So
perfect.
Or just Mia Manganello.
I'll make sure I link to that. I love your Instagram. It's
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thanks. I'm not very good at it, but I try to be.
Oh, you're great. Whatever. Awesome. Well, it was so much fun catching up again. Well, I'm going to have to find an excuse to do this again, too.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
We'll do post Olympics.
Yeah, exactly. Well, enjoy your many parades and banquets and award ceremonies and whatnot.
Yes, the high life. The high life.
Awesome.
Keep up.
Thank you,
up.
Mia.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Thank
we'll
you
chat
so
soon.
much.
Hey guys, before you go, we just wanted to have one quick word from our sponsor, Health IQ.
Health IQ is a life insurance company that helps the consummate athlete like you save money on your life insurance.
To find out more, you can check out healthiq.com/CAPOD. That's CAPOD for all the details and to take a free quiz. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Consummate Athlete Podcast. To check out all of the show notes for this show, go to consummateathlete.com, and to follow along with our various adventures on the social medias, you can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/consummateathlete, or follow me, Molly Herford, at Molly J. Herford on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm at Peter Glassford on Twitter and Instagram.
And if you could do us a huge favor and rate and review the podcast over on iTunes, that helps us bring on more guests, get more episodes out, and do more cool stuff. So we would be forever grateful.
And if you're looking for coaching for endurance sport or just for health and wellness, you can check out smartathlete.ca. And for amazing outdoor content, you can check out theoutdooredit.com.
Aw, honey.
And that's theoutdooredit.com for Molly Herford's writing and all things outdoors.
All right. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time.